Welcome to The Green Rush, a podcast about the business of cannabis. On a weekly basis, Ann Donahoe and Louis Goldberg talk with the CEOs, politicians, and cultural icons driving the cannabis industry forward. This is episode 30, where Louis and Ann speak with podcaster, activist, and entrepreneur Shea Gunther. Don't sit back, lean forward. Now, on to the conversation.
Welcome to The Green Rush. I'm Louis Goldberg, and as always, joined by my West Coast or West Coast co-pilot, Ann Donahoe. Today, we're doing something different. We've moved our little show to the Marijuana Today network. So, hopefully you found this transition easy, meaning that you still get The Green Rush in your podcast feed. This is still basically the same show. It's still the same hosts, which means you'll still be getting my cheesy dad jokes. But it's going to be under a different umbrella. And that umbrella has been built by today's guest, Shea Gunther, host of Marijuana Today and Marijuana Today Daily. Look, it's okay if you listen to other cannabis-focused podcasts. It's not cheating, I promise. And, well, if you're going to cheat with Shea. His daily podcast, and he's on episode like 450 plus or something, is a must listen. If you want to know what's happening in the news around cannabis, then Shea is your man. His show is a daily wrap-up of the biggest news in cannabis from all around North America and occasionally around the world. I listen to it every day on my walk to the office, and Ann and I strongly encourage you to subscribe. Well, to our podcast and to Shea's. So before we get on to our interview with Shea, we wanted to note that there may be a few changes to our show that we'll be rolling out over the next couple of episodes. And we hope that you find them as cool and interesting and different as we do. And so now it's on to our conversation with Shea Gunther. Shea, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I always like being on this end of the microphone.
Yeah, it's got to be a little different. So can you tell us how you got into podcasting? And yeah, that's it. That's the last cheesy pot reference. No, I promise. But how did you get into being a podcaster?
I don't believe that's the last, but all
right, episode 1, he's already calling you out for your crap, Louis.
So it's been a long time. I've been podcasting in the marijuana space for coming up on 4 years now, and it originally started when me and my kind of production partner in crime, Chris Chris actually came up with the idea of starting the podcast because he was noticing that we were having all these conversations, every week with kind of the same people talking about the industry, talking about what was going on, all the developments. And we have interesting friends, and he was like, we should start recording this. And so yeah, it took a couple months to kind of pull the idea from idea to actually, sitting down and recording. But we recorded 10 test episodes that we never posted. We got comfortable, and then we started doing it and got to the point where we just couldn't stop. So that was
it's funny.
4 years ago.
We didn't record any test episodes. We just did it. And going back and listening to our earlier ones, I wish we, not having anything to do with the guests, having everything to do with us, I wish we hadn't posted them. But we're really glad to talk to somebody like you about this.
Yeah, well, I appreciated the ability to kind of be able to screw up without anyone listening. Because actually the funniest part of that is the very first episode. It was me, Chris Lotlicker, and Dan Goldman, and I was actually a guest. And I think the very first question was put to me. And even though I knew no one was going to listen to it in all, I got nervous. I froze up and I didn't know what to say. And there was like a 30-second pause, and I just said, I don't think I'm going to be able to be a guest. So, for the longest time, I avoided being the guest, and I just focused on the news. So it ended up being, good because, now I'm the news guy. So
that's literally how I feel every show. But can we, because I wasn't really supposed to be a host and Louis made me do it, but that's it for another show. So back when you were 21, you were able to raise $10 million. And I'm just thinking back when I was 21, living with my mom and just a big dummy. How did you do that? And who gave you $10 million and what did you do with it?
Yeah, that was an interesting time in my life. So I was lucky. I caught the very tail end of the first .com bubble. So, for younger listeners or people who just weren't paying attention back then, back in the late 90s, there was a period where you could raise millions of dollars by with a crazy tech idea and claims of having lots of eyeballs. And so I managed to connect with a friend of mine, a guy named by the name of Nate Wheeler, who's just a super smart guy, really top quality, top-notch salesperson. And we kind of put this idea together for, I guess I'd call it YouTube Too Early. The idea was that anyone could have a website that they could post videos to and share with their friends. The only problem was that it was the late 90s and no one actually had bandwidth, no one had cell phones, and very few people actually watched videos online. So the actual the viewing experience of watching, a video online was not great. So we were, a little too ahead of the curve, but we still managed to raise millions of dollars in venture capital. So that was a fun thing to do when you're 21.
It's funny. I worked in a similar type of space at that time. Actually, I was working for an online TV network. They aggregated the news from around the world, and it was like they would get CCTV, Central China TV, and get it in English, so that if you were a business traveler, you could see the news of whatever country you were going to in English. It was amazing, and it was just way too early. But podcasting isn't. I think podcasting is an art form, as a vehicle for communicating, is really starting to mature. And our audience is clearly a fan of podcasts. I mean, whoever's listening clearly is listening. So many of our fans have entertained the idea of starting their own show. And personally, I tell you to do it. I love podcasts, and it blows me away that people actually listen to me talk about this stuff. Can you tell us about how you created your show? Like the concept of Marijuana Today, where did that come from? How did you put it together? Like, how did it develop?
Yeah, so just to be clear, so I produced two shows, a weekly show called Marijuana Today, and then a daily show called Marijuana Today Daily. And Marijuana Today is the weekly show. It's about an hour long, and it's kind of like a round table discussion where we have a host and a bunch of regulars talk about the week in news. Like I said, Chris came up with the idea to do that because we were kind of having those discussions anyways, and so Chris listens to a lot of video game podcasts, and he definitely kind of drove the conversation initially over how the kind of the structure of the show went. So we kind of dive into the top three stories of the week, and then kind of break it up with some things where we let our guests talk about things that they want to talk about, and then really diving into the three or four things that are really most important. So the Daily Show that came about 2 years ago and really marked my entrance as a professional podcaster, because for the first 2 years we produced Marijuana Today just as a hobby. It's just a thing we did every week with our friends. And even though I knew that there definitely was a business there, I was actually going to school when we first started the weekly show, and then I started working with Forefront actually in marijuana publishing. But yeah, so it wasn't until I started the Daily Show 2 years ago that actually considered it my job. So that's the show where I'm waking up every morning, reading a ton of news and saying, here are the 10 most important stories of the day. So,
by the way, every time you mention one of the stories that we placed on behalf of one of my clients, I get so excited. And we don't send them to you. We don't point out, say, hey, this is something that we did. But I always get excited when that happens.
Yeah, that's great.
How early do you get up for that?
I wake up at about 4:45 a.m. every morning.
Oh.
And my deadlines are, I have a 7:00 deadline to get my newsletter out. So I spend about 2 hours, reading the news and organizing the news and doing all the things that you need to do to, have it be in people's inboxes at 7:00. And then 11:00 is when well, 11 to 12 is when my podcast goes up. So it takes a few more hours to produce the show on top of once I kind of have the initial batch of headlines for that day.
So you read. Oh, go ahead. And
no. We're really good at this after 30 episodes. How did you start building your audience? How did people find your show? How did you market it?
It's been entirely personal network and word of mouth. We've spent no money on it. I mean, for the first 2 years, it was just a hobby. So it was like, us sharing it on Facebook and sending around to our friends. And, we all happen to have pretty extensive networks within the industry. So I think, that helped. The people that we're friends with and that we know that, personally are people, actually in business and in activism, leading organizations and companies. So yeah, that definitely helped because, they're influential and, when they share it with their Facebook friends and, they have a lot of people, in the industry. So, we're a super industry, marijuana nerdy show. So you really have to be into legal marijuana to listen to our shows. So, and then over the past 2 years, it's really kind of been the same. I mean, it's mostly been kind of like a one-man show as far as like the business and production side of it, with me doing the daily show and actually producing the weekly show. And I've mostly just been focusing my time on, creating the content and the listeners have kind of shared it on their own. So, we have about 25 or 30,000 people listening to us, both shows over the month. And it's all come about just organically, which has resulted in a really, really fantastic audience. Like we've done a lot of demographic surveys of people listening to our show and, they're all high earning, highly educated, people who are most likely, either in the industry or trying to be. So we're kind of a demographic dream as for sponsors.
and now that we're working together, hopefully we'll get the same. Yeah. So let's go back to you because you were describing your day and you have to read a ton of news. The mainstream media historically has done a mediocre to odd job of covering the space. Who do you think does the best job in the mainstream media? And do you think they're getting better?
I think the mainstream media is using less pot puns, which is good, and they're definitely taking it more seriously. There's more stories about it being business, and really it's kind of hard to sustain making fun of something when there are just so many legitimate storylines breaking every day. I mean, I wake up and there are 30 to 40 to 50, depending on the day, legitimate news stories about marijuana. And so, it's getting harder to just get away with kind of being the everyone's getting high. But to, I guess, answer your question specifically, really the hardest working guy in marijuana news is Tom Angel. I don't know if you guys read his stuff.
But,
so Tom Angel, he writes for Forbes. He has his own site at Marijuana Moments, and he's a longtime activist, and a longtime journalist. And he's the kind of guy that actually makes news. He's listening to C-SPAN hearings, and he's looking through PDF documents from the government, and he has all these these special searches. And Tom Angel breaks more news than really anyone anywhere. So I'm glad that we have Tom, and I'm also glad that his site is taking off just as far as he's starting to get some. He just hired his first writer, so that's always a good thing. The Associated Press, they're starting to pick up, their coverage. Herman Lopez at Vox is, I guess he's mainstream. He covers mainstream stuff. He always covers the subject well. Dan Adams at the Boston Globe covers the Massachusetts scene really well. There's a lot of good kind of regional writers who kind of cover their specific region well. So it's exciting because of all the sources for our stories every day. It's mostly like local or national mainstream sources. It's not just High Times.
A little bit off here. You're using the word marijuana all the time. Your show's called Marijuana, and for as long as I've been in the industry, there's been this kind of move to walk away from that word. How come you've so deeply embraced it?
Yeah, so I understand that whole thing, but I don't buy it. I think, certainly, there's the argument that the term marijuana has racist connotations because of, it's just where it came about in the 1920s and 30s. And, absolutely. I'm not going to argue about that, but it's kind of grown and involved its own thing. Like I think it'd be silly to walk away from the term marijuana because it is marijuana. It's also cannabis. That's actually, that's if you listen to my show, it's like I alternate between marijuana and cannabis because some sentences like I have to use the word marijuana 3 times, and so if it's just like marijuana, great. So I'm happy that I have both words. And just on the broader topic, like I think sure you can argue that. I think it's a lost cause. I don't think anyone's going to be able to brand away marijuana.
So you are, having been in the industry for so long and being on the advocacy side of it and on the media side, it seems that the country in general has, it seems that they've embraced cannabis overnight, but legalization overnight, that's really not true. It seems like there was sort of an inflection point about 5 or 6 years ago where public opinion just flipped. As an observer of the industry and an advocate, what do you think was the cause of that? Could you see yourself 5 years ago doing what you're doing today?
Well, so when I got started in this in 95, 96, I thought we were going to be done with it in like 5 years. So, I was maybe a little bit ambitious in my thinking when I was
done with it in legal?
I thought we were like, all right, 5 years. 5 years. We got this thing legalized. We'll be in and out. We get this thing done.
No big deal.
Yeah. So
you thought Clinton was going to do this?
Well, I was 18, 19. What do I know? You should be when you're 18 or 19, you should think it's only going to take 5 years to change your world. But yeah, so it's taken a little bit longer. I don't know. I think that, public opinion kind of slowly changed. In the late 90s, it was like, 25% of the country thought that, adult use should be legalized. Nowadays I think it's 60, it's pushing 60. In 2012, Colorado passed adult use, and the world started seeing that it doesn't destroy your world. The streets don't fall apart, and children don't.
The streets get fixed.
Yeah, streets get fixed, and your economy improves, and people move to your state, and housing becomes expensive, and all that stuff.
And fewer people are arrested and taxes grow. It's like it's a net benefit.
Yeah, and really, and also when white guys started making money, when white guys in suits start making money, then that will continue. That creates its own just momentum. Just putting aside all the issues wrapped up in that, but just the fact that it's a business now. There's more people with an economic interest in seeing the markets grow and the markets stay protected, and people like money, and if there's a legal way that they can make money, then they're going to push for more of that. And so I think it was a long time coming, and then it just kind of started. Yeah, the deluge started.
And it seems like it's accelerating, right? It's not slowing down.
Absolutely. That's how all kind of big social change happens.
Yeah, but on the business side, it's this. There's this unbelievable velocity. The acquisition of Aurora, buying MedRelief, for $2.3 billion. It's hard to fathom that 2 public cannabis companies, both worth more than $1 billion, went through an M&A. So, and then on the political side, you got, every day it seems like another politician is coming out in favor of cannabis. This week, and we're recording this on May 24th, May 25th. I'm sorry. The New York State Democratic Committee put adult use in their plank, their party platform for the gubernatorial election. And Mayor de Blasio said to the police, you can't arrest anybody for smoking a joint. The industry, though, is really young. Does the velocity that this is changing concern you?
Well, I think there's a valid argument that there's something positive about having some time to develop the market at a slower pace. If everything were made legal overnight, 100% federally, 3 years ago, all at once, everywhere, things would look a lot different than it does now. And I don't know if it's going to be better, it'd be better or worse, but I think by having some of the friction of federal illegality, it's given some space, for smaller operators to be built. I'm entrepreneurial, I'm super capitalist, but I definitely would like to see, an industry with, 1,000 millionaires rather than 1 billionaire. So, I guess I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know. But because on a social justice, perspective, it definitely, we need to stop putting people in jail. So any delay in that is bad. So, that's the dance.
Well, it seems like especially in a state like New Jersey, that's what's going to be slowing down. At least that's what some of the Democrats who are trying to slow it down are saying, that you guys need to start paying attention to the social justice issues and to the people of color who are disproportionately locked up, and that's kind of being ignored while the state is plowing ahead with their adult use and Phil Murphy's platform. Do you see that as a good thing? Or do you what are your thoughts there?
I think that states need to look to Massachusetts for how to do it. So, a little bit of disclosure, Shalene Title is one of the members of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission, and she's one of our regulars on hiatus on Marijuana Today. And she's an SSDP alumni and, an activist, and really gets the social justice side of things. And she's been, really been kind of the catalyst for, Massachusetts program, which actually, takes a look at the kind of the disparities and the kind of looks at the communities that have been kind of historically most economically and just impacted negatively by the war on drugs. Looking at ways to kind of even out the business playing field. And from some recent stories, it sounds like it's kind of being implemented imperfectly, but the fact that they're doing it is hugely important. So I think that states definitely need to have, it needs to be baked into the plan that there needs to be some kind of system that does give some advantages, some steps up to people from communities that have been just crapped on and thrown in jail and borne the brunt of this thing.
So we're just about 30 minutes, and while now we have no constraints on our time, I do think that for our audience, they have to get used to growing into a little freer structure to this, I think. But that said, we are at the point in our show where we do puff, puff, pass. That's where we're going to ask you quickly to pick two things out about the industry that you absolutely love and the one thing that's driving you nuts. So, Shea, puff, puff, pass.
Yeah. So for my first thing, I'm gonna shout it back out to Tom Angel's Marijuana Moments that I mentioned earlier. If you go to marijuanamoments.com, you'll find the website. And so Tom is a fantastic writer and just the kind of most hard-nosed journalist in the industry. But the exciting news is that he recently added his first new writer to his site. So Kyle Yeager is Tom's new writer at Marijuana Moment, and together those guys are just churning out originally reported industry content. So if you are not a Marijuana Moment reader or subscriber to his newsletter, I would do that. The second puff, I'm going to have to give a shout out to SSDP, Students for Sensible Drug Policy. That was the group that I started way back in the 90s that has since grown into one of the most effective agents of change in the industry and the world of drug policy and marijuana. And this year is their official 20th anniversary. So that makes me feel old. But you can learn about Students for Sensible Drug Policy at ssdp.org if you don't know about them. And for my pass, I'm going to have to pass on California Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. He is a noted longtime supporter of the industry and a big ally of legal cannabis, but Dana Rohrabacher is he's kind of a shitbag, if you excuse my language. So recently, the big recent headline is that he just told a bunch of realtors that he thinks that people should be able to not sell their house to gay people because if they think that gay people are wrong, which is ridiculous. That's just stupid on so many levels. So, and the fact that he appears to be a Russian agent. So that may be more fundamental. But for that reason, I think that our industry needs to find some new allies and needs to drop our man crush, our legislative crush on Representative Dana Rohrabacher. So.
Oh my God. He didn't do that. Come on, really?
He did. He
Holy
was giving
shit.
a speech to, it was, I forget, some kind of realtor, like Orange County group of realtors, and said that he thought that, people should, if it went against their core beliefs, you should not be able to sell to a gay couple.
Wow.
I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, that's like so just fundamentally disturbing.
Way to end it, Shea.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right.
Welp. So thanks for listening to The Green Rush. We've been talking with our new friend, Shea Gunther, the host and creator of Marijuana Today and Marijuana Today Daily. Both are absolutely required listening. We hope that you'll join us again, Shea, now that you're our producer. So anytime. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at KCSA_cannabis. Feel free to email Lewis about how cheesy he is at greenrush@kcsa.com. And we will talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening.
And Anne, as always, you are a little jar of joy.